What is going on? It's Alex coming back at you with another video, and today we're going to be breaking down the Draft Network's 2025 NFL Mock Draft. If you are new, feel free to like, comment, and subscribe. You guys know how to use YouTube. Below my face is my board. It is not predictive. These are just the players I love in the order that I love them. I've been updating some certain positions, including defensive backs, so you guys can end up seeing that. I do have a quarterbacks video that will be dropping this week, so get excited for that. It is my final quarterback video after reevaluating everybody in the class. Hope you guys are excited for it because I sure as hell am, because it is good to finally set the record straight. And you could already see what one big change is, but we'll talk about that a little bit more when the time comes. Let's get into this. Let's have a great time. And again, thank you guys again for supporting the show. We're over 16,000 subscribers, and that's it's a crazy journey that we've been on, but again, shout out to you guys. You guys have been absolutely phenomenal. You guys make this so worth it every single day of the grind. And so I really do want to give back to you guys. And I know the Draft Network is not one that all of you guys like to click on all the time, but it's a business that I support, and honestly, one that I would be happy to work with. Hint, hint. Let's try to get that going. But let's get into this. Ryan Fowler is their lead draft analyst, so it's exciting to see some work done from him, maybe than some of the guys in the reserves. But the Giants go Cam Ward with the #1 overall pick via a trade. And again, it is very possible that Tennessee could end up viewing their quarterback situation and saying, hey, maybe we end up getting somebody else. And, I think that money talks, and the money is saying, when we pay offensive linemen 1-year deals to solidify our offensive line, we are focusing on giving our quarterback the best possible situation. I don't know if they think that's Will Levis. I almost feel like I know it's not Will Levis, but there's always a chance, right? The NFL draft likes to humble us. Let's just say in this case, Tennessee really thinks Will Levis deserves one last shot, and so they give it to him. Cam Ward goes at #1 overall at the cost of a second and a next year third. I needed to make sure that they didn't draft Shedeur Sanders via trading down before I, speaking out of my rear. But the Cleveland Browns go Travis Hunter here at pick #2. I will just say, I almost think that 1-year deal contracts, especially on the less expensive side, are indicators of positions that these teams are going to draft, because you're pretty much just doing some risk mitigation. Like, hey, we need this. This is the type of guy we want. It's not the guy we want, but this is somebody where if we end up losing out on a draft prospect that we really, really like, or can't fill this role, we at least have someone for the short term. I think that Joe Tryon-Shoyinka showed that they're looking for an athletic pass rusher, and Joe Tryon-Shoyinka doesn't move the needle at all. And they kind of do need still an edge too. You guys know what I think about Isaiah McGuire, but Abdul Carter actually I think is going to be the pick. But I don't disagree at all that Travis Hunter would be an excellent addition, especially if they're trying to lure one of the veteran quarterbacks. Like, you could say, hey, you have Travis Hunter as your wide receiver for a year before, when Newsom wants to go, we're going to transfer Hunter to the defensive side of the ball. Just saying, there's always a chance about that. And so at #3, of course, we talked about that move down. The Titans have a garbage pass rush. So, you know what? I think this is excellent. Their defensive interior is doing a great job. Let's continue matching that energy on the outside. At the same time, you end up getting a second and a next year third. The Patriots at #4 select Will Campbell. Apparently, the news is that they've been enamored with Will Campbell this whole time. I don't know if that's necessarily true. This is smokescreen season, but I'm just not necessarily the biggest guy in Will Campbell. That's me. I don't think it helps Drake May to take a swing on a tackle that has legitimate questions. I'd prefer to go after Tyron Smith at this point. I mean, he's already in New York, right? So it's not going to be a massive shift to say like, oh, is he going to be able to play well in the cold? He's a veteran. Yeah, it's not the best thing on planet Earth, but that allows you in round 2 to be able to take a more developmental prospect like Ariante Ursary to grow under Tyron Smith. That's my personal opinion, but that's how I would attack the draft. At #5, the Jaguars go Mason Graham, kind of the Braden Fisk of it all. An athletic, white defensive interior that has its gap penetration, good block shedding. I mean, it is what it is. I mean, again, hopefully none of you got triggered by that. I've tried to do it as a little bit of a comedic relief, but, a lot of people just like to talk serious about sports and especially the draft. And, it's a serious thing. I mean, this is multi-billion-dollar organizations betting on college kids to be their difference maker, right? I mean, it is a serious thing. And so I understand that, but I mean, hopefully you guys enjoy the little jabs here and there. It might get me in trouble. I've already gotten in trouble before for it. So you know what? I still love you guys. I hope you guys love me anyways. Let's continue on. Vegas going Genty just makes a ton of sense. And, ooh, I am not alone. Amari Hampton is my RB1 in this class. Technically, he was tied with Genty before he fumbled 2 more times at the end, but I digress. Amari Hampton is incredible. I do think Ashton Genty is more likely, and Ashton Genty, you can't go wrong. If Amari Hampton somehow goes extremely high and maybe even above Ashton Genty, I don't think it's realistic, but again, I mean, you see my board. You know the players that I love, and I also love Ashton Genty, but this fits, in my opinion, a little bit better. And so I like it. Again, shout out to Fowler for talking about something that's very controversial without making it the focal point of your mock draft. Actually, I know I've seen some mock drafts on here that, maybe kind of question whether it was for clicks or for actual analysis. This feels like something like, hey, you guys are actually focusing on, like, for Ryan here, I really do think that, he's taking a legitimate approach, which I like. At number 7, got the Jets going Shedeur Stewart. I don't think that really moves me, but if Shedeur Stewart's going to go high, a defensive coach is going to be the one to have the ego to say, hey, this guy got 1.5 sacks last year. 4.5 sacks, if I'm not mistaken, on his college career. I can get more out of him, and I know it. Aaron Glenn might be that dude who's just like, I've seen this before. But if I'm going to be honest, like round 2, if Nick Scorton's there, I mean, that spin move feels very Aiden Hutchinson-y. But regardless, I do think edge is very possible. If you are set on it, then that's something that you can go after. I don't think it's a big issue, but I would say I'd prefer to go after Membu at this point, especially because Aaron Glenn also knows the value of the offensive line. But Shedeur Stewart, he's going to go higher than what we say. So you're always going to have something to nitpick and complain. I get it. But if there's going to be somebody to take it, it's going to be a defensive coach. And at number 8, you got the Panthers going Jalen Walker. I love the fact that linebacker is listed first. And as you can see, and if you guys continue going back and looking at my track record, you will see that Jalen Walker has always been a linebacker first to me. So linebacker, edge rusher out of Georgia. Perfect to replace the linebacker role that you guys are losing with Thompson. And then you also have that edge rushing ability, which I do like. But I do think he's a little bit overrated as an edge rusher. People are just talking incredibly high levels of compliments about Jalen Walker that I've seen out there, like Todd McShay and is it Steve Mensch? Whoever Mensch is, like Mensch and McShay, they're talking about him potentially even at number 6. So I think this is a realistic range for him to go. Mike Green goes at number 9 to the Saints. I mean, Mike Green's a very athletic player, maximizes speed to power, gets into the inside of the chest, which is what he has to do when he has sub 33-inch arms, but does a good job at it, right? I mean, if you're going to make it work, at least he's the type of guy to make it work, right? He's showing how it could work. Edge rusher is very, very key there. And you look at Brandon Staley's defense, Mike Green could definitely work in it. I think that I'd prefer to go more on the offensive side. I totally forgot that I put Nick Eamon-Warry's position as demigod. That just took me really off guard. But I was like, what the hell is that? But you can see my ADD going off right now. But regardless, Mike Green to the Saints. I think there's some other positions I'd prefer to tackle before edge rusher, and especially, I mean, the SA allegations, he ended up clarifying them, and they don't seem immediately as egregious as what was initially perceived, which thank God, right? And I pray to God that he's being 100% truthful, and that's the situation at hand. So fingers crossed that's the case. But I mean, he has the athleticism you need. They overpaid, in my opinion, Chase Young, but they did what they had to do. You can't go into the season with nothing working at edge. So I respect it. I understand it. And I would just say wait till round 2 for this issue. I know that it's so easy to say that, but I mean, this edge class, legitimately, I think you get a Mike Green level player in round 2. There's a lot of them, a lot of very, very good players in this class. I don't know if you're looking at your right tackle spot with Membu that you can say you can get that. I mean, you probably could, Ozzie Trapilo, but you guys know what I think. Regardless, I think there might be some better moves here, including going after Tyler Warren, who I personally love. I need to find a way to boost the value of my tight ends, but you guys know I'm a big fan of him. Regardless, at 10, the Bears go Will Johnson. So Will Johnson is my number 1 player in the class. If you see a plus next to someone's name, that is their pre-injury grade. I do want to make that very clear. I'm not a doctor. I haven't seen him after. I just want to let you guys know what I thought of the player until I couldn't tell you what I thought of the player. So that's why there's a lot of guys with some very high grades that got hurt, which really sucks. But, you know, it happens. Will Johnson's one of them. I don't know what he's going to come out and like look like at his private workout, but I mean, you can't go wrong with getting more corners. I still think this is a perfect location for Ryan's number one running back in Omari and Hampton. This is also an organization and a coach that I think would value that. But if you end up going Will Johnson, I will be like, damn, like rest in peace, Tyreek Stevenson, of being able to be a legit 2 the whole time. But it also might give Will Johnson time to recover and get healthy, which could be a very big thing. And talking about slot right away in the outside, I thought you were saying put him in the slot. I'm like, oh, hello. But Will Johnson, to me, when healthy, was the best player in the class. And if you get that at 10, sometimes you just got to roll the dice. Membu to the Niners is such a good fit. I ended up just doing it myself. So I'm a fan of it. I respect it. And I think it was on Broshmo's channel, so feel free. Like, this is, unfortunately, I'm spoiling a pick I just did. But I literally recorded it before this, so this is definitely going to upload before that. But get excited for that. How about that? But regardless, it's a good fit for San Francisco. I think it's a great pick. At number 12, the Cowboys go Omari and Hampton. Excellent fit. Excellent fit. You know, I just think that Omari and Hampton is... And the thing is, people might say, oh, Alex, you're batshit crazy. Like, you're just a super fan of Omari and Hampton. You're not seeing clearly. Let me tell you, this is published. I mean, it's out there on my show. Look at my preseason running back rankings. I had Omari and Hampton at 16. I did not like him. I said he ran into contact, or he just ran into success rather than him creating it himself. He stumbled into success is the term I would use. I think Omari Hampton elevated his game exponentially. And similar to Josh Simmons, where it was like, it looks good, but it doesn't actually perform good. It was almost the opposite with Omari Hampton, where like he performed well, but didn't look the part. Both of them ended up working respectively in their own right on the other half. So like Josh Simmons looked good, it couldn't perform well. All of a sudden, everything clicked. He performed well and looked good. Omari Hampton was producing, but to me, it didn't look like actual production. Now it's like, oh, okay, wow. Like, you're actually the main reason why you're producing. It's no longer like, it felt more like he was stumbling into success than what he did this year, which was create his own. And I love to see the fact that someone could take that step up. I really think he's going to be a top 5 to 10 running back in the NFL. At number 13, you got the Dolphins going Kelvin Banks. At a certain point, you got to understand that, you know, left guard is not going to be valued by Chris Greer. But if you can have the upside of Kelvin Banks being a legit right tackle for you, if you want to just say, hey, we're taking a right tackle here and we're putting Kelvin Banks at that guard because we're getting him comfortable. We're going to cross-train him at right tackle, which is not very common where you train a player how to, you're on top of that, like cross-training him to be a left guard. And like, because he's not a native left guard, he's a native left tackle. And then you're cross-training him to be a right tackle as well. It might be an interesting developmental curve, but it's something that's possible. I mean, get a good O-line coach and things can, you know, really, really develop. Talk to the Eagles. But, you know, if this ends up working out, it ends up working out. I think their safety core is too depleted and they haven't spent enough money in their safety core for me to think that they're going to ignore it. But if they end up going offensive line, the last thing I would criticize is that, because offensive line is king. Tyler Warren goes at 14 to the Colts. I love it. I don't know where he's going to go, but Tyler Warren is fantastic. And, yeah, I mean, I'll just leave it there. There's been enough said. He's just such a fantastic weapon, super high floor. I think he's a little bit more athletically capped than what people want to give him credit for in terms of like speed. But overall, he is just so damn consistent. I really, really appreciate his game. Falcons go Jahad Campbell at 15. Very interesting. Let's read this. So 3 consecutive picks to address the defensive front after taking Penix at 8. However, more pop is needed, and Campbell is a hybrid defender that can do a little bit of everything and do it well. His ceiling is untapped as a pass rusher, which could elevate him even further in this class. You know what? I miss good writing excerpts like that. I miss that. Like, you just read, no, again, not going to throw too much shade because, you know, small world out there. But CBS, a lot of the stuff they do, you'll read these excerpts and you're like, really? Like, you could tell that it's not like, it's either copied and pasted or it's just kind of filler. That's a legit argument within 4 lines. So good job on Fowler for that. Because I mean, I know maybe I've gotten on a couple of his mock drafts before and I haven't really loved it. And I don't fully agree with Jahad Campbell to pick. But as long as you end up like having a succinct and like solid analysis, I respect it. Like none of us are going to get this draft right. So, you know, you should be willing to take risks. And I like that. So good job on him. For me, like I would be looking at boundary corner, pass rusher, as well as nose tackle, because I think Kenneth Grant, their nose tackle situation, they haven't addressed it, which means to me that they're looking to address it. So whether that's going to be in the first round with Kenneth Grant, second round, if somehow Tyleik Williams falls, I don't know. Somewhere, I think they're going to address it. So Jahad Campbell, though, I mean, I love Jahad. He's number 21 on my board solely because these bastards keep going higher and higher. But I mean, I just love it. And I honestly need to reboost him. And it's gotten to the point where I'm liking too many players. Like, you guys see what I think of Jalen Smith. And I honestly was like, I need to drop this guy. Like, I really do. And to be fair, I think I still need to drop him one it factor point because of his frame. But, I mean, I have my whole entire point is like I have a spot on my board that you can't see, but it's on this page. So if you guys really want my draft guide, let me know. And let me know, like, a price point, whether it's like $5, $10. I know there's people who charge $20 to $30 for it, but I mean, it's too late in the season. I'm not going to do that to y'all, but it is honestly a good idea for me to release this to y'all. But regardless, on this page, I have a very limited way of saying why, good or bad, that I have him there. And my thing is Jair Alexander with a top speed that's capped. And I really did see that. Like, I think he's one of the best feisty players, and I haven't had the chance to break him down because he wasn't in my corners video because I didn't think he was going to be a corner I liked or that mattered. And yeah, I am extremely on board with Jalen Smith, and I continued testing my theory of it. It's just like, yeah, that's my guy. Donovan Jackson to the Cardinals at 16. I ended up doing that in the second round. I don't know if Monty is going to be going after guard early, but again, I agree that it is a position where you should be addressing it. You have the offensive line coach there, and he has a potential to play tackle. And I like all three of those lining up. At 16, I just don't think it's very realistic for the front office. Ezuraku goes at 17 to the Bengals. Honestly, one of the highest floor players in the class. I might not have the highest grade on the guy, but I mean, holy Toledo, this guy's good. I mean, that's the thing. You don't always need to get the best player. And everybody always says, oh, go for the best player available. But the best player available is not always going to be the best player. Sometimes you just want to hit a double. You don't need to go for the grand slam. And again, I'm no baseball guy, but it talks about this perfectly, right? Like, you don't need to go for everything because you have a legitimate shot of whiffing. Sometimes it's okay when you have issues at edge to legitimately hit a double and just solve it and not have to worry about it. Sometimes it's really difficult to do that. And I do think that the Bengals, if they do go after Ezuraku, who has that very high floor, it makes sense. It makes sense. Like, I think they definitely could go and upgrade that edge rushing core. Because especially Trey Hendrickson trying to weasel his way out, I don't think they're going to bite. I still see that as a massive issue. And again, in the AFC North, sometimes you just need to get gritty and powerful. And someone who's played him at BC, he's gritty and powerful. So I'm getting more and more optimistic about Ezuraku by the day. Maybe it's just like the conversations I've had that makes me more optimistic about him. But yeah, I'm happy with where he's at. Tyler Booker goes at 18 to the Seahawks. I don't know if he's athletic enough to be able to work with Seattle, but the gap game that he can play is just like chef's kiss. Like, he's powerful and stuff, but I would just say for Kubiak's system, I'm remembering that right. I believe I'm remembering that right, but I'm pretty sure Kubiak is the OC. Like, I might want a more athletic guard like Zabel at this point. But I like the idea. Again, address the offensive line. I think Nick Eamon-Warrior is a little bit too much eye candy for McDonald at this point. But Tyler Booker, I respect it. Again, upgrade the offensive line. That's never a bad idea. Ben Morrison, hello. Like, I love Ben Morrison. This is talk about prospect fatigue. I freaking love him. And that's why I have him on my board still. He's my number 3 player before getting hurt for the entire year. And it's his second hip surgery. So it is a legitimate thing you got to worry about. I get it. The Buccaneers, I don't know how much they love. Like, I'm pretty sure Jason Light doesn't love injury-prone players. But to be fair, the injury-prone part just comes from the fact that it happened in high school. and then it happened again. And there's a chance that that's not, like, they're not related to each other. And if it is the case, then yeah, I mean, this is a really good pick. I think Ben Morrison's awesome. You guys know that. That's why I have my board below my face, so you guys don't have to ask every time, what does Alex think about it? If you see my top players, you know my top guys. So Ben Morrison, I love him. I think he slips to the second because teams are going to be worried, but I'm not going to shame a team for going after a player I really think is awesome. Ooh, hello. Tet slips to 20. So Tetaroa, I mean, there's just some, like, explosiveness is going to be an issue, which is why I think he didn't do any testing. I don't think he's going to have a good 10-yard split. I don't know if he'd have a good 40. I think he'd have a good top speed. That's my thing. I think he builds up speed well, and I think he's very fluid. I think that he wouldn't test well in 3-cone or shuttle, but I think he would end up testing far better than his 40 and 10-yard split would suggest. So, keep that in mind, but Tet would be an insane option here for Sean Payton. I respect it. I mean, I don't think it happens, but it's a good pick nonetheless. Shedeur Sanders falls to 21, and man, every time I pass on him with the Giants, he randomly continues to fall. Almost like it's possible that a quarterback can fall and that we've been tricked by the hive mind into believing Shedeur is a lock in the top 3. I've been part of it. I've gotten fooled by the hive mind. It's okay. Like, I get it. But if there's going to be a team that takes someone who potentially has some character concerns, and there are plenty of people who talk about the concerns as well as the lack of, or the overemphasis of concerns far better than I ever could. But even if he has those concerns, there's a team I know that just doesn't give a shit about personality concerns, and that is the Pittsburgh Steelers. So, I mean, technically speaking, you also potentially line up your next head coach, but that's a conversation for another day. Steelers getting Shedeur, honestly, it wouldn't be a bad fit. And especially with Pickens, DK. I know Shedeur likes to take some shots down the field as well. You end up getting Jimmy Horn Jr. in the slot. Call it a day. I know you got Roman Wilson there, but you guys know. Watch my receiver video. It's over an hour long. So you guys can end up seeing all that. I love Jimmy Horn. 22, the Chargers go Matt Golden. Excellent value here. I mean, he's a boundary receiver and running the 4.3s. Before he ever ran the 4.3, I had him at a 9 out of 10 speed. So I believed in it based on the tape as well. Maybe it's not as consistent, but honestly, it might be a timing of the Texas offense issue more than a Matt Golden issue. At 23, the Packers go Michael Williams. Spoiler alert for tomorrow. We have a great collaboration with Football Analysis for YouTube. Garrett, shout out to him. Great dude. I was in this situation where I was sitting here with Green Bay being like, damn, what do I pick? And looking at a couple receivers, and also like you had Michael and Shamar Stewart slip. And I'm like, I think because they fired their D-line coach, they still believe in their D-line. But I don't think they believe in it enough to pass on something they view as egregious to pass on. And Michael fits exactly what Gutekunst would do. And it makes a lot of sense. They don't have a solidified edge too. And Michael would be that for them. Jahdae Barron goes to the Vikings at 24. I mean, it fits right on par with Byron Murphy. So I like the fit, but I just think that you need to have some height in your corner core. Like, you are really limiting yourself versus bigger receivers. I would prefer to go after Trey Amos in that situation because I think you need some balance there with someone above 6 foot and someone who has a little bit more physicality. At 25, the Texans go Josh Simmons, the pick I'm starting to make, and a couple of mock drafts that we've been doing. So I like it. Guard and tackle versatility. I think it's going to be great. And again, before injury, he was my number 4 player in the class. Rams go back to LA. Carson Schwezinger. Shout out Oaks Christian Lions, baby. Went to the same high school. It was kind of crazy. I didn't even know it. And then I was looking up pictures for me to use on a thumbnail because he ended up having like a really good week. And like, I was looking, I'm like, why do some of the people I went to school with follow this guy? I scroll down a little bit. I see him in Oaks gear. I'm like, it's kind of hype. So shout out Oaks Christian there. I don't think he's a first round player. I know at the end of these mock drafts, I know a lot of times people like to throw in some players they really believe in, some good fits as well. And I think that's kind of what he's doing here. I don't think he's a first round player, but I mean, my issue with Carson right now, we saw him at 225 and he got up to the 240s. Like, who are you now? That's the thing. I was like enamored. I'm like, hey, you could be 225. I honestly think you don't be a box safety. Like, it would be insane, but it's like, I mean, are you going to be a Will? Are you going to be a Sam? Like, what are we rocking here? And then like you get up to the 240s. I'm like, You trying to be a Mike? Like, what's the role for you right now? I think it is almost the opposite of Braylon Trice last year. There's going to be a little bit of confusion for me in terms of the role for Schlesinger, and a little bit of uncomfortability with where he is at in terms of his athletic profile, because that was his biggest strong suit, in my opinion. So I'm a little bit curious about that. But for the Rams, linebacker is far from a bad move. Azareye'h Thomas goes to the Ravens, and Azareye'h Thomas is a great choice. You guys know me. I've been a big Azareye'h Thomas guy since preseason. He was my corner 4. He's my number 22 player on my board. Like, Azareye'h is someone I really love. I will say, shout out to Football Analysis YouTube for saying this as well. Shout out to Garrett. I think that Trey Amos is more up their alley because he feels more like an actually successful Brandon Stevens. And that's pretty awesome. And I think it fits perfectly. So I don't think AT would be a bad option at all. I think there might just be one that I like a little bit more. Have we seen Kenneth Grant come off the board, by the way? I don't think we have. My dumbass might have forgotten it earlier, but I don't think so. That's another guy I would potentially throw in there for the Ravens. I mean, you just add up like taking swings on the best player available. Nick Scorton goes to the Lions at 28. I lose talking about this for the Jets, right? I'm saying, hey, he has that spin move that's a little bit Hutchinson-y, and this is a great fit. Like, I'm going to start doing that probably myself. Commanders go James Pierce at 29. If the coaching concerns are legit, he will fall out of the first. That's just how it goes. Players who get labeled that always fall out of the first. Last year was Johnny Newton. Before, we've seen it with Tevin Jenkins. I mean, you also talk about Jermaine Burton. Like, a lot of guys who end up slipping because of coaching concerns, and they fall multiple rounds for it. I don't think James Pierce would fall multiple rounds, but I mean, I feel like first round, even with the talent, I mean, it's very hard to piss off your coaching staff with the talent that James Pierce has for them to not give you reps. That's all I got to say. Like, it's almost like a catch-22. It's like, yeah, you got like actually snap counted on Florida, but you ended up doing that with the talent you have. Like, how much did you piss him off? It's kind of weird to think about that. Bills go Trey Amos at 30. Yeah, I mean, Trey Amos is a stud. Honestly, switch him and Azareye'h Thomas, and you know, I'm saying chef's kiss, but really, really good fit. Really good player. Already talked about him for Baltimore. Kansas City goes Walter Nolan at 31. There's KG. Walter Nolan at 31. Great value. You might as well. It's going to be the Tershawn Wharton role. So, I mean, I get it. I would prefer to try to figure out that left tackle spot with maybe a Connerly, but when you have best player available, I mean, try to bring in a Tyron Smith like I was talking about for New England and patch the hole for a year and maybe draft someone a little bit down the line, whether if you believe in Anthony Belton to be a tackle, I think he should be a guard in the short run at the very minimum. But, I mean, even thinking about that, Ursery, etc., I don't think Ursery would get to 63, but you know, there's always a chance that one of the tackles slips there. Take a shot on that. But yeah, I mean, going best player available is hard for me to say no to. And then the Eagles go KG. You know, they don't really need it, but also the Eagles have been so successful drafting because they draft a year ahead rather than being very reactive. They're very proactive. And gonna be honest, Jordan Davis is 1 year left. This could be your contingency plan, or worst case scenario, you have him be an oversized player in the role that Milton was playing. Regardless, get Jalen Carter off the field. This poor guy's taking 97% of the snaps, all right? So, you know what? If KG's there, I fully support it. That's going to be the video. Thank you so much for watching. I love you. See you on the far side. Peace.